So let's move on to the next topic, which should be the North Korean summit, which might or might not happen now, because
The on again, off again.
yes, like it's like a high school relationship apparently.
I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, they announced the summit, and then they pulled out, or North Korea pulled out, or somewhat. They said like a statement like, "Oh, if we are giving up these weapons or something like that, then and we're not getting anything in return, then we're gonna pull out." But then uh, Trump had like a tweet that said like, "Oh, okay," basically, and
Yeah.
then
And he had this whole he sent him this whole letter, like basically explaining the decision and talking about how much larger. Once again, going back to like classic Trump, talking about how much larger our nuclear arsenal is.
yeah, because
compared
like
to
you said,
theirs,
like
and, this, that, and the other.
if you're not going to talk with us and have to come to an agreement, then you're not you're not going to be in our crosshairs, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is a strong move. And then they met with South Korean officials, North Korean officials met together, and then they agreed to they talked them back into it.
Yeah.
And then Trump was like, "You know what? We're gonna pull out." So that happened, I think, today or yesterday. He tweeted that out. So, what do you think is gonna actually happen?
Well, I think that it was good. I think Trump is, in some ways, the right person to be negotiating this because, like, you have to be willing to walk away. Like, if you're not going to get any sort of reasonable, I mean, like, we're the ones that should be negotiating from a position of power. Like, it is in North Korea's best interest that like any sort of deal happens because it will benefit them significantly economically. And like maybe not be like the hermit kingdom anymore.
And like no one can really defend North Korea and what they've done to like their citizens or
right,
with
the
nuclear program and just the whole situation and the regime. Like they can't really get like they gotta take as much as they can, obviously, but like they're gonna get the short end of this. And like I think that's why Trump is doing this as well, because he knows, like I said, how to walk away.
Yeah,
and that's the point. And what I feel is like this is not a Trump success, just a Trump success. This is an American success, like as a country. Because like again, like no, if you didn't know, the Korean War hasn't ended.
Yeah,
it's just it's just a ceasefire at the moment. Like
for the last like 60 years.
Like if you didn't know that, like it's not over. Like it like I said, like when everyone says like tensions are high or something like that, it's because like the war's never ended. And I think that's an important thing to know as well. It's just like I think it's also what I think Trump has done as well is like I think that's respectful for like those Korean veterans as well. To this, like it's finally over. It finally ended, and it's like I think it's a lot more powerful, and I think it's a positive. I think it's also going to help his ratings out for the next election.
It's definitely helping Trump in the midterms. I think it's helped him, like whether or not even the deal or like any sort of negotiation goes down, like at all at this point.
Because this is the as far as anyone's really gotten, really. I mean, I don't think no one. I think that was the first time a North Korean official under that regime has left the country.
Yeah, they had like a photo op opportunity, like both like the president of South Korea and Kim Jong Un, Kim, I always forget, Kim Il Sung, Kim Jong Un, whichever one it was. Like they like crossed. He walked, like they both walked to the 38th parallel, and then like the North Korean leader like walked across the border, and they like shook hands, and then he walked back across and invited the South Korean president back, and like he stepped across the border. And like they shook hands again, so it was like there was like kind of that symbolic moment. I think one thing maybe to note from a little bit of like a skeptical point of view is that like an opinion that I heard from my dad actually is that what he said was that North Korea maybe finished like what they were trying to do, like they developed their nuclear program to the point where like all these years that they've had it and they've been testing rockets and they've been testing like the nuclear bombs and such like that, like they got to a point now that like they accomplished their goal of what that testing was. Okay. And so now they're willing to come to the table because they've already finished. Like it doesn't matter if really if their nuclear program is
Or if
dismantled,
they're,
like,
like,
because they already accomplished what they wanted to do
Yeah.
as far as like the nuclear
like,
testing and all
that facility they could have blown up, which apparently like people are reporting it was an accident.
They're right, that it was like destroyed in testing or something like that.
Yeah, but like that might have been a thing where like there was just them blowing that up just to blow it up or something like that.
Yeah, it could be. So I mean, there's definitely reason to be cautious, maybe cautiously optimistic that like because like like we've said, like it is in their best interest to like comply and like to get these sanctions off of them that they've had for so long and to like open themselves up to the world a little bit. I mean, and, like there have been families that have been like that are still separated like from like the 50s in the Korean War and like who like live on both sides of the line, the 30th parallel. And
yeah, because this deal is if they get to a deal, is definitely not going to be what we did with Iran for sure. Because like that just obviously that happened. That's a variable in this as well. Like when Korea sees that, they're like, okay, this guy is coming into play.
I think again that was a like major difference between Obama and Trump. Just like Obama was desperate, I think, to like bring back the news that like, hey, we've reached an agreement, and like now we're finding more and more out about that agreement, and it was not a good agreement to make. And like Trump being willing, like you have to have a line that you're willing, like if someone crosses that, you walk away from the table. Like it has to be the right deal. It's not just like making it. It's not that we make a deal with North Korea. If we make a deal with North Korea, it has to be the right one, and it has to be in our best interest.
I think it's also, even if we don't get a deal done, but we tell them what we want, and there's some things they don't agree with, they know like what needs to be done in a way. Like that's what is gonna take, and that's what's gonna be the thing that eventually goes pen to paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I wasn't too happy in the sense with like North Koreans coming down like for the Olympics and stuff. I wasn't like that like too ecstatic.
I wasn't at all. I didn't appreciate at all the sort of coverage that it got because everyone's like, oh, like look at all the North Koreans, like, and they had like a whole like cheerleading section where like they're all like clapping in unison and all this, and like they basically came down and like put on a show for the media and like. But like the reality of what's happening in that country, like
it does not represent that at all.
Right.
And like it doesn't. That's the closest thing we have to what went on with like World War II with Hitler and stuff. Like
yeah.
And that people I think people don't really realize that. Like, and that's what's like scary, that like people look at that and they're like, oh, that's fine. Like they're together. It's unity. It's like, no, they.
I would say it's more in line with like the early Soviet Union, like it, because like what's different, like we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit here, but like what's different with North Korea and like Germany in like the 40s was that like North Korea lacks cultural diversity, like they don't have like Jews or like very many, like they don't have another race or another religion really to like round up.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what was happening in Germany. I think more like Soviet Union, where it's like a homogenous society, like everyone's basically like the same race, same like that sort of thing. So
okay, that's better. Yeah, I take that back. Sorry, my bad. See, we can take things back, correct ourselves. That's a good thing. I'm learning. You're learning. Yeah. You're learning too.
Hopefully.
But yeah, that's basically all we have for that.